So, you married your babysitter.
Hmm.
How did that happen?
Well, so my parents and her parents were in the same Gurdjieff esoteric spiritual community, and so when I was born, when I came home from the hospital, she was 12, and so she babysat me the day I got home from the hospital, as my parents and her parents were in group meetings late into the night with my grandmother. She would take care of me, and then we lost touch. I mean, I was a baby, and then 21 years later, she came to a family Thanksgiving, and because we were still friends. Actually, do you want the whole
I want
the
the whole
whole the
story.
whole story? Okay, she came because she was dating my uncle.
Okay.
So my
Plot
uncle,
twist.
yeah. So my uncle came to Thanksgiving and brought her, and I met her, and she was the girlfriend of my uncle. She was part of the. I didn't remember her, but she was part of the family and part of the community for many decades. And so she was just another person there. She was really cool, and we all hung out, and there was no thought about any sort of connection. And then my uncle lived in Arizona, and we were in Colorado. She lived in Colorado and Denver. So my uncle would ask me to, or he said, if you want to hang out with her, she's would be kind of nice for me because then there's nobody, she's not going out with other guys or whatever. So, and I was bored at college because I had been at boarding school for 4 years, and so the whole dorm life party thing was already kind of old for me. So I would go up with friends, and we would hang out and go out with her and her friends and just all hang out. And it was super, like there was I had no idea of trying to engage with her in a romantic relationship sense because I was hanging out with my uncle's girlfriend. And then he broke up with her some months later, and I kept on going up there and hanging out. And now it was a different. Actually, even then it wasn't. She came down for. I was in a play in college,
In a
and
play.
a play like a drama, like
Theater.
a theater, yeah,
Yeah.
theater production, exactly. And I was I and this other woman, we were the leads, and we kissed at some point in the production. And Emily was my ex-wife's name, is my ex-wife's name. Emily came down and she watched it, and when we got home, she's like, "Wow, I felt a little jealous when you were kid." And I was like, it changed the whole dynamics. That one comment was like, "Oh, really?" Hadn't even thought about it before then because she was a partner in a law firm. She was 12, 13 years older than I was. She had just been dating my uncle. Like there was just totally no thought, no chance of that ever happening. And then that started building, and within probably a couple months, we would start going on dates, kind of just the two of us, and eventually we we became partners, and we were together for 6 years. We got married actually, and then divorced about 2 years after we got married. But we were together for 5 years before getting married.
Hmm.
So yeah, I married my babysitter.
How is the relationship to your uncle nowadays? Or how was it like freshly into the relationship, and how is
Um,
it nowadays?
it was a My relationship with him is amazing. Because of that, he feels really guilty because he sees her as kind of a difficult time in his life, and he said he was happy that there was an easy transition for her and that there wasn't any anger or anything. And then he's like, "But I'm sorry that it turned into something hard for you," and I don't see it that way. So, but he still feels kind of guilty about, I guess, I don't know, not stopping it or something.
Why
But
did you get divorced, if you don't mind me asking?
um, why did we get divorced? I wanted more time. She worked a lot. She was very much invested in her career, which I knew, and I tried to make things easier on us as far as time constraints. And I quit my job and started help doing everything around the house and became a house husband.
Hmm.
And she said, you know what, actually I don't want that. I like coming home and doing the laundry on the weekends and just kind of it's part of my ritual. And she wanted to work and she wanted to, which I actually didn't mind. What the problem for me was just the loss of connection. And I realized later that she was I have speculation of why she was moving away. I think it was our age difference, and I think that she started to feel she had the fear that I was going to not be interested in her.
Mhm.
And I also we had totally both agreed not to have kids. But then within 6 months of our separation, she was pregnant and had a kid. So I think that she didn't speak to me about that, but I think that that was part of part of what was happening is that she wanted to have something in her changed, and I just wasn't the right person for that. um, our financial situation depended on her mostly, and if she took time off, that would have been difficult. So, and maybe other situations as well. But um, I wanted to be closer, and we also had an agreement that if things weren't going well, that we would just drop everything and go work at a beach bar in Aruba or something. And I said, all right, let's do it. Like I'm hitting the button. And she said, oh, that was just a dream. That was just like bullshit. Like that was not a dream. We were very clear about that. And I was very serious about it because for me, the relationship is more important than all the other stuff. And she said, you know, I like my life. I like my comforts. I like having, I don't want to be working 10-hour shifts in a bar on a beach somewhere. I'm not in that place anymore. So there were a number of different factors, but she decided. And then the day before, there's a 90-day waiting period in Colorado
Hmm.
for divorce. And on the 88th
Still
day,
nowadays?
I think so.
Mm.
I think so. I don't know. It's been 20 years. Um, on the 88th or 89th day, she called me and said, is this the right thing? Because I kind of feel like I'm losing my soulmate. And it was hard, but I realized, you know, we haven't done anything to change it. So why will it be any different? We didn't, you know, this is the first time hearing this. And if you're ready to invest and shift things. And she said, no, I guess not. I'm just sad. So yeah, so we went through it with it, but she still is a very important part of my life. And uh, yeah, I think she always will be.
How's your relationship with her nowadays?
Non-existent. She, I, one of the very shameful or guilty, I guess, shameful parts of one of the shameful um,
Memories?
experiences or things that I did. I was so heartbroken and was so missing. She left for a weekend to go figure out if she wanted to stay with me. She came back and decided not to. And I also found out that she was not honest about a health condition that kept us from being intimate. She said that she had an issue with her um, ovaries or womb or something, and it wasn't as much as she said it was, and that was keeping us. She used that as an excuse not to be intimate, not to have sex, and she said that she was feeling this for quite a while. It had been 6 months, and already she was feeling kind of moving apart. But for me, the softness and the intimacy was really, really important.
Mhm.
And so I set up a camera and I took video of her just getting into bed at night when we were already separated, living in the same house but separated. So they were secret. I mean, they were without her consent, without her knowledge. And I just wanted that. That was my favorite time, was us just getting into bed and being quiet together and not even making love, you know, just having that, because we were so busy and there was so much going on, that was one of the few times in our day that we had just together, without phones, without cooking, without anything. So I took video of that time of her getting into bed, and she found it, and she felt super. Um, she was angry. She was a lot of things, and really saw it as a deep betrayal, which I completely understand. And she cut off communication other than the financial stuff, because we still had some financial agreements after the divorce that we had to continue. And so she was very professional and she could deal with that stuff. And so we would talk about that and she would just keep it at that. That was hard. That was super hard for me. The guilt and the loss of connection and all of that. Then um, over the years, we had some connection, and then once the agreements were done, we had some payment things, and because we had a house together and we had different things together. And once that was all done, there were a couple of years we didn't speak at all. And then I got an email from her saying, hey, you know, I see a bunch of yoga places around Denver and I think of you when I see them. And that was big, huge for me. I was like, wow, it's just so nice to at least have that. And then we had a couple exchanges, and we were going to meet when I was back in the US. And I wrote to her. We talked in November, and she said, "Listen, after the holidays are crazy. After the holidays, we'll get in touch and we'll have coffee." And I never heard from her again.
That was last year.
No, that was 6, 7 years ago. But it was okay. I had what I needed, just softness and closure, in the sense of just some main interaction. And she moved on, and she has a totally different life, and this life is completely different than the life we were living. I mean, we were flying all over the world, and and taking weekends in Aspen and driving the Audis, 2 Audis and a big house, and just a totally different life. So there was not really much interaction or overlap, but just to have that, she was a very important part of my life. I felt again with her. Was quite numb and quite shut down, and the connection with her was really inspiring. Really, I lived again. So I owe her. I mean, I appreciate her for that, for waking me up, kind of.
Wow, that was probably the fastest dive into deep talk I've ever had.
That's
So
kind of how I
really appreciate your
Yep.
your vulnerability, your openness, your letting me see into you. So you got married in your early 20s when you were still in college, or was this after graduation?
After I graduated, I was with her while I was in college. That was also crazy. I was commuting back and forth to a very residential college. Everybody lived on campus, but senior year, I guess, I moved in with her an hour away in Denver, and would drive her Audi up and down, up and down to college every day. It was totally bizarre.
Yeah. And then you said you quit your job. Was this at the Federal Reserve Bank or in the wine company?
I quit. Oh, so I quit my job when I was selling wine for to go to work at the house, to be at the house. I quit my job at the wine company. So I was a regional manager for Colorado and Utah with a huge, not huge, but middle size, about $1 billion wine conglomerate. I went to work at the Federal Reserve straight out of college. They kind of recruited me out of college.
And then you got divorced in, what age were you, like 27?
26.
26. You had just quit your very profitable job selling wine, making big money.
No, I mean it was good money at the time, but compared to what she was making, it was very little. So it was kind of our like play money, our spending money.
Yeah.
But it was a job that usually took till you were 35, 40 to get, because I had a friend, I still have, he's probably my closest friend, one of my closest friends that I met. He was the buyer at the largest liquor store, wine store in the US. And so he influenced the entire market, the wine market. And so companies would go in and say, who do you want working for you? And one of these companies went in twice, actually. He always jokes, he's like, dude, you owe me at least 10% of your salary. So 2 companies went in and said, hey, Sean, who do you want calling on you? Who do you want to rep for us? And so they asked him who he wanted to work with. And twice he said me, first for a distributor and then for a supplier.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then you went, after the divorce, you went to Germany to play soccer there?
Yeah, I went, my coach in college is German, and he had connections in Freiburg. Actually, I had already been there because we went on a tour through Germany with the team. And so I had already been to Freiburg and played with the team and knew the place. And so he made a phone call and they said, sure, he can come practice with us and we'll see. And it's a super small team, very low in the league structures. But it was cool. For 6 months, I went and just hung out in Freiburg and practiced with the team. And then they said, okay, we'll take you on. And by that time, I realized it was pretty much the same as the US. The structure, just kind of everybody working and buying cars and houses and TVs and same sort of thing. So before saying yes to joining the team officially, I decided to go to Thailand.
So you were in your late 20s. You had worked for the Federal Reserve Bank and a wine company, making good money.
Yeah.
Getting divorced at the age of 26, 27. Yeah. And then went on to play soccer in Germany. And at some point you left everything behind, left behind a life that our society conditions us, when it indoctrinates us, is like a successful life. It sounds pretty epic. And then you went to Thailand. Why? What happened?
So, yeah, I went, I was in Germany during the World Cup, when 2006 World Cup. And I had a friend from the US who worked for a company that put on large events and around the world, World Cup, Super Bowl, these sort of like F1 races. They would put on parties around those events for Adidas or Gillette or whatever. So this friend said, hey, listen, we have part of the budget is for local help. we won't fly you over, we won't give you a place to stay, but we'll give you, it's for local people that we need there, to give a salary, and then you can. So I said, sure, I'll come up. I came up from Freiburg to Berlin, stayed in a hostel, and I was a driver, right? So local, but with now, at that time it was GPS. I don't think we had like Google Maps, everything, but we did have GPS. So I didn't, and everybody spoke English, so I didn't really need to speak German, and I didn't need to know where to go because the maps were there. So I was the driver for either people in a compressor Mercedes or stuff in a box van. So every night I would drive into the hostel in this compressor Mercedes. We're just thinking, what's going on? And there I met a woman who worked in the company. She was she was actually organizing more of a managerial situation. And I met her, and we had kind of a fling, and we're still actually close friends today. And she and I guess I was already planning to go to Thailand, but
To do what?
to find myself, right? To just take a bunch of books, and like actual physical books, backpack full of heavy books, and figure out all this spiritual, neo-spiritual, self-help, new age books, and just try and figure out what life was about and what I was going to go back to, because the idea was just kind of do a round the world trip and end up back there and do something.
Why did you pick Thailand, not Australia? Like,
yeah, Thailand. I had 3 people in my life, totally different people, totally different interests and backgrounds, suggest Thailand to me in a matter of 3 weeks. And one was there for partying, one was there for meditation and yoga, one was there for sightseeing, beautiful, snorkeling, everything. I thought, wow, awesome, that's cool. And it was all like synchronistic. So I thought, cool, Thailand, let's go. And she had always, the woman that I met in Berlin, had always wanted to go to Thailand, or had already been or something, and really liked it, and said, if you go, I'll go. I'll go for a while. She had some vacation right after the World Cup, so right after this event. And so we went together, and she stayed for 2 weeks, and she changed my course of where I was going to go, because we decided not to go to this totally isolated place that I was going to go and just with grass hut and hole in the ground to go to the bathroom and just sit on the beach and read and figure out what's going on. And she said, I'd like a little bit more. So I said, cool. So I'll go there for 2 weeks to Koh Phangan. And we went to the TAT, the Thailand, the Tourist Authority of Thailand, which is supposed to be the kind of quasi-governmental thing, and they totally cheated. They totally lied to me. Oh yeah, super quiet. It's really a great quiet place, and blah blah blah, to go to Koh Phangan. So we ended up going though, and that's where I met Shanmuka. And actually, my friend, she was into yoga, and she saw this little sign for yoga on the dirt main road of this little town, Thong Nai Pan, which is on the backside of Koh Phangan. And so she went, and we had been talking a lot about philosophy and what I was doing and what I wanted and how I saw the world. And she came, and she went to the yoga class, talked to him, Shamukha, a little bit, and came back and said, I think you would really enjoy talking with this guy. So I talked with him and ended up staying on there. And that was 10 years. So
it's 10 years in Koh Phangan, or with him?
No, 10 years with him.
Yeah.
So we went Koh Phangan 3 months. We went to North India, and it was too cold, and it was too just not the right situation. So we went back to Koh Phangan for another 8 or 9 months, and then we came to South India. So almost a year in Koh Phangan.
And then you started getting into Tantra. You started devoting your life to Tantra.
Yeah, it was a system. I told you I had all these books,
Yeah.
and I was just trying to put together. The analogy I now have is kind of like taking all kinds of different parts from cars and putting them together, and it's like a Frankenstein car. Like, it works, but it's not all integrated. And then I saw this system through Shanmukha of Tantra, and it had all the aspects integrated. So it was, everything worked together. The physical with the asanas, and the mental with the philosophy, and the kind of spiritual, emotional with the pujas, and all of it was integrated. So it made a lot of sense to me, and I had wanted that. I grew up in this esoteric community, and that was always behind, always at the base of my reality. Even if I was playing soccer or selling wine or working at the Federal Reserve, the major perspective, the most influential perspective of my life was this spiritual perspective of oneness, pretty much. And now here's a system that is like ratified and very detailed, which was also important. I had an economics degree and a physics focus and a chemistry focus, and I liked having a logical foundation, and I wanted that. So this had all of these pieces. It had non-linear, but absolutely rational and structured, and it was everything that I wanted. So I thought, okay, I'll spend 3 months was the first dedication that I made to it. And then by a couple weeks, even a couple months into it, I realized that I want to do more. So I went home, I flew back to the States, organized everything, banks and whatnot, and made it so that I could come back. And then I came back, and I had no idea how long that was going to be, but it was open ended. I wanted to do this.
So you've started dedicating your life to Tantra like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, through our training the last 4 weeks, I've got an impression. I started gaining knowledge about the system, but how would you describe Tantra to the audience listening to this podcast, an audience that similarly to me, or like to most people, that when they hear the word Tantra, obviously most often associated with Neo-Tantra, this over-sexualized, like this very sexualized practice. So how would you, to complete beginner, to complete newbie, how would you describe, like, what's Tantra?
You'll get a different answer from everybody, and I have asked that question. So some people will say it's the Tantras, right? So if it's a text, it's called Tantra, Kulanavara Tantra or something. And then another person will say there were no texts. It's an oral tradition. The texts are bullshit. It's not bullshit, but they were just kind of a standardized, which is non-tantric. And then some people say it's the essence of the philosophy of these orthodox philosophies. It's the esoteric side of the orthodox philosophies. Tantra is a perspective of life, or there are many tantras also. There are many different, it's like Christianity. There's many different types of Christianity. For me, Tantra is a perspective on life. Tantra is an understanding, a systematic approach in one sense to understanding this reality. And it is the esoteric, the underlying. Shanmuka always used to say it's kind of like the understanding the engine and the transmission and all the stuff underneath the car, underneath the hood, that you're not seeing. You're seeing the steering wheel and the shifter and the turn signals, everything. But what's going on behind all of that? What's actually making the thing go? And that's what Tantra is what's behind what we see here. Kind of like physics, but a conscious, non-inert perspective that there is life, that it's all vibrant and it's all consciousness expressing itself. And so how it's describing how that works.
What makes Tantra not superior, but more appealing to you compared to other philosophies, whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, shamanism, whatever religion, whatever philosophy? I mean, you have quite broad knowledge. You might not be a master of, you didn't study contemplative religions, but you have a broad knowledge from what I've seen and heard from you. So why Tantra for you?
How I see it also from introduced by Shanmukha is there is an esoteric aspect to all of these. Everything you mentioned. There's even specifically Tantric Buddhism. There's the esoteric aspect of Christianity, of Islam. They all have the same perspectives. So my interest is more in the esoteric side. It's not in any one specifically. I have more knowledge. I have more access here. There's more access to the tantric esoteric perspective of Hinduism or Vedism. But I also met Shanmukha, and that's what he was teaching. He's also written on Buddhism, so could have gone through there. But Buddhism, for me, in a general sense, Buddhism is more about the emptiness, and Vedic Tantra is more about the fullness, which the Tantric Buddhists are also about the fullness. But this one I had more access to through Shanmukha and the texts, and I'm very much about the fullness, the play. There's a lot of focus of play and bliss, ananda, and the expression of this soul, and that all was very appealing to me. I want to play, and this was a system of like hardcore validation, systematic approach to intense play.
And we, like the style of Tantra you teach here, we practice here, is non-dual Tantra, which Shanmuka learned. You told us the story that he found a mate in the near of Chennai.
His teacher.
Yeah.
So he was first taught it by his grandparents, and it was their kind of family, this perspective, and then went deeper with his teacher, a woman older than he in Chennai. She didn't really have. She didn't put herself out there as a teacher, but she was cultured from young in this perspective and was sharing to only a few people, but people who were really, really dedicated to it. So she was not, yeah. So he learned it from her, or he furthered his knowledge and depth with her.
And why did you stay with him for 10 years? And why did you eventually leave?
I stayed because it was fascinating, and I was seeing myself. There were many times I wanted to go, many times. I mean, it was horrible, and it was amazing, and it was sad, and it was happy, and it was all the things. What kept me there for so long was that I had no other options that made sense to me. I had tried exactly as you said. I had everything that the West was promising me by 25, 26. I mean, my wife and I together made a lot of money. We had everything. We didn't have private jet and a private island and all this stuff, but I could see we had similar. We were flying first class, business class everywhere. We had incredible home and all the luxuries, and I still wasn't happy. So I thought, all right, if this even gives me a 10% chance at being alive, of living, of optimizing. Also, I had this background from my grandmother and my parents of the value of knowing yourself, especially in a spiritual sense. And I wanted that. So I persevered and I endured a lot, and I appreciate everything that Shanmukha did for me. I know that he had to have a great care for me to be together for 10 years, and the care and the energy that he showed to me. And it was fascinating going in and finding all of this stuff. I mean, the most rich traveling and exploring I've ever done is inside, and the most horrendous, right? And terrifying and excruciating. But wow, alive. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't know really what happened, when things changed, or if they changed, or if I just saw, or what happened. But what I interpreted Sean sharing and teaching, and what I saw happening in life, were not aligned anymore. And it didn't seem that. I also had an experience with my grandmother, the teacher, of not really walking the talk, and many people and that I knew personally or that I saw in public or whatever. And for me, that was super important, to actually do what you're saying. Because why? I mean, unless you're making a lot of money and that's what your interest is, why not do what you say? If it really means something to you, then do it. And if it doesn't mean something to you, then say something different. And so for me, doing it, saying it, and doing it are super important. And so when I saw that not happening, when I knew for sure, I had a big trust issue. So with Shanmukha, there was a sadhana, a practice of trusting. And so I just trusted. At some point, after a couple of years, I said, all right, if I don't just let go and trust, I'm going to be scanning and holding back forever. And there's no point in being here. Either leave or trust. Right? And I don't suggest that to anybody else. It's just, for me, I knew that it was a waste of time.
I mean, the recommendation or the mantra, either leave or trust, sounds like a very legit and helpful approach to general life.
Right? I mean, otherwise you're just kind of hanging out in limbo, like dive in or dive out. Right? And so I thought, fuck it. I have no other options. I've seen this for 2 years. What he was doing with me made sense. He's a super smart guy. And I thought, yeah, let's do this. So I dove in. And I told myself, until I absolutely cannot trust on the really important stuff. There were a lot of stuff, and I think he intentionally lied to me many times over the years so that I would not worry about these little insignificant things. But you said, but you said, but you said, dude, relax. Life is okay. You're good. Look around you. We're all right. He would say like, okay, we're going to move tomorrow. We're going to go to Rishikesh because that's where all the yoga is and we can blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I'll go pack. No, don't pack yet. We'll pack in the morning. And then in the morning at breakfast. We're not going to Rishikesh. Okay. But I learned.
Why did he do that?
I think to get me flexible, and there will be disappointment and people will change their mind and all of these things will be happening. And I got to the point where I didn't worry about the little stuff. Right? Okay. So I chill and see what's actually happening.
So he
actually going.
wanted you to surrender to whatever.
I don't even think he wanted me to surrender to anything. I think he wanted me to just relax. Because it was like, oh, I wanted to hold on to every little thing that everybody said. Dude, you're going to fucking be miserable like this, right? Relax, see what happens. Now, people say they're going to show up. I believe them when they show up, right? I believe that, and I don't judge them for it. I don't anything. I know shit comes up. I know life changes, whatever. And so here, especially in India, people will say they're going to come and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they're on time, maybe they're late. I know that they're going to be there when they're there. And I don't plan my day around it. If I'll plan other things, I'll do whatever. I don't drink all the water. If the water is coming, I don't pour it out, and make sure I've got a little because the guy might not show up with the water, whatever it is. I plan around the fact that it may not happen, not out of fear, but just out of things happen right here and now is what is going on. I appreciated that. I saw that, me relaxing and him teaching me to trust, meta trust, not these little micro trust and betrayals and you betrayed me and all of this stuff. That's not going to work in this, especially in this stuff. You've got to be strong on your own. You can't hold on to these little things. You've got to build this for yourself. And he was a master at that. Whether he meant to or not, I know he meant, he said, do not follow me. I'm not your guru. I'm not your teacher. I'm not your mentor. I'm not your role model. I'm your automated librarian, right? And the automated librarian brings you the resources and you integrate them. And now I know all the things that were going on and blah, blah, blah. Probably that's one of the reasons, but also because it makes me strong. And when everything fell apart, I had something that was mine. I didn't depend on him. And he made sure that was the case by sometimes pushing me away even. So I had to have it and lying, doing these little micro lies and all of these things, or, lie, whatever it was. And saying, I'd say, but you said, he said, no, I didn't. I never said that.
But how do you trust a person that keeps breaking their promises, that keeps lying to you?
It was, again, like I said, little ones versus big ones. The big ones, food was there, safety was there. I was learning, I was growing, I was becoming stronger. I was getting all the things that in real life I needed. The little things that I was holding on to and making a big deal about, he was breaking. Right? So in realities, like the Malini Vijayuttara Tantra, do what brings you to reality. So telling the truth versus not telling the truth. It says you can do all the pujas or no pujas. You can be an ascetic or you can accumulate everything. It's duality or non-duality. It's not about the thing in and of itself. Are you getting to reality? And he was bringing me to reality. That's what I eventually saw. And it was hard. And those were times when I was like, fuck this. This guy's not truthful. He's not blah, blah, blah. I'm leaving. But then I thought, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What's better? This is at least better than what I thought. And he's not making me do anything really seriously or not giving me something or whatever. They're actually little things that my ego is getting really pissed off about, or my sense of justice or whatever. And so I became much more flowy, much more relaxed, and seeing people in situations. And it helps in relationship.
Yeah, I was about to ask, do you follow this approach in relationships as well?
Like I try to.
Letting people get away with small lies?
My personal relationships are really difficult because I have in the past had a very, very different approach in kind of teaching and life and everybody else than the people that get close to me, that I let close into my inner circle. And I have this almost unrealistic expectation of them and dependence on them and all sorts of attachment activation stuff and all of these things. So no, I often don't let those things, but what I would like to look at and what I am now endeavoring to do in my personal life is to do that, is to look and see, listen, was this an intentional, he had a different role. He was, I think,
Sure.
intentionally doing these things like a coach,
Yeah,
making things better.
the benefit,
Yes.
long-term benefit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was an agreement I made with him, right? That was consensual. If somebody doesn't show up on time, a partner of mine, if somebody for some reason says something different than, I would still like to relax and have the trust that this person loves me, that they are here for me, that they're not doing this intentionally. And if they are, look at it. Yeah, for sure. Seriously, why are you doing this? Right? What is going on here? And what actually I would like to do is make my decisions with more time and care and slowness and patience around that person, so that once I also, like Sean, it took me years to really make that decision, but take time before diving in and seeing who is this person. And then once I know who they are and that's what I like and that meets my needs, then yes, absolutely. Don't mind the little things, because I know in their heart that we're together and they care about me. I mean, that they're with me and they have that. I think that I do that with students because I don't have a dependence on them. And I make sure that I don't have that dependence. That's a very important part of my relationship with students, is that I can support them because they are there without some of these skills and they're building those skills. So I can't expect them to have those skills, or I don't want to expect them to have those skills before they have the time to build them. And when they have sufficiently built them, then I will hold them to that, but not for me, but for them, so that they don't back down on the skills that they actually now do have, right? But in a personal relationship, I miss that often, and I think rightly so, is that I have an expectation that we will support each other, and that's not the case in the same way with a student.
Speaking of student-teacher relationship, it's funny. I remember you shared a few times that you had this 2-3 day rule about your of leaving.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I would be ready to go. Absolutely. Fuck this place. Fuck all of this stuff. Sometimes it was, I can't do it, or he's wrong, or I'm wrong, or something. It wasn't one way. Sometimes it just said, yeah, I think it's amazing, but I'm not strong enough. I can't do this. I can't drop all this stuff. I can't survive without these little ego crutches or whatever. And sometimes it was like, this guy's crazy and he's lying to me. I would use these things as justification, and I would be ready, almost maybe not really bags packed, but quite ready to go. And then I would think, fuck, where do I go? All right, give it 2 days. I had this 2-day rule. Eventually I had a 2-day rule. So I would just think, okay, push the 2-day rule button and then just stop thinking about it and see if in 2 days I still wanted to go, that I still really truly wanted to go, and I didn't see any benefit in staying, or enough benefit in staying, then I would go. And I never ended up going, but I used that 2-day rule many times. Many times.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was actually about to leave in the first 48 hours too. I haven't told you about that yet. But yeah, and I was wondering about why, like, what the factors were. And I mean, like, I came here with an infected wound, which was really bothering me. And after having been to the hospital twice in Kovalam, in Valkala, it was fucking horrible going to an Indian hospital, and they were just like giving me antibiotics. They didn't even look at the wound. I was like, please guys, can you just look at this fucking wound? And they really didn't care. And I was struggling with this wound for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, at some point I was really thinking about, just going back to Europe, to a proper healthcare system, or I don't know, Singapore would have been more or less around the corner too. But so there was there was my infected wound, and then coming here, the journey from Trivandrum to Kovalam, which was rather unfortunate with my tuk-tuk driver, and I was just super stressed, and then I couldn't find the fucking gate. I was wandering around for 2 hours. My eSIM stopped working, and it was a drama. And then when I came here, I wasn't feeling comfortable at first, due to the setting, like the holiday homes around here and my room. And I kind of sensed some of a dark aura around you. I really don't know where this is coming from. Maybe it was your resting bitch face.
Or the fact that Tali has a...
Yeah, I don't know, but it was all these factors playing into it. And then there was also the emotional struggles I was carrying with me, like intense homesickness to South Africa. Like I've never felt homesick before. I told you about that. But it was really, you know, it was a cocktail of inner struggles. And I remember talking to my girlfriend on FaceTime. I think it was on Monday night after 24 hours, and I was like, I might actually leave tomorrow morning and go to Sadhguru's ashram 2 hours from here, or go to this like reforestation project in on the east coast. But somehow I stayed. I don't know why. And I was also wondering if it's like kind of like a ego protection, like my subconsciousness sensing, anticipating what's awaiting me.
That's the black cloud.
Yeah, right. And similarly to my Vipassana 3 years ago, which was like, I told you about it, one of the most disrupting, re-traumatizing experiences of my life. But yeah, I did end up staying, which I'm very, very grateful for, because this, after 4 weeks, this has already been a life-changing experience. And now coming to what I've learned, it was like in the first few days that from the satsangs, from the things you started teaching us, I wrote down 3 like core principles, 3 key learnings, well, rather core principles I got from the Tantric philosophy you're teaching, which was one, that all of this is a game. It's a dream. Shakti is dreaming all of this, broken down super simplistically. And based on this premise that we are all living in dream, this means that there's no right and wrong, right? Because, you know, you told us the analogy that when we wake up in the morning from our dreams we're having in the night, like whatever happens, whether I get killed in a dream, or I rape someone, or I don't know, I do a mass shooting, which doesn't happen often, by the way. But I had dreams like these. But I don't wake up in the morning and I might think like, oh, this was crazy shit. I have no fucking clue what my subconsciousness is processing there, but that was wild. I might say this, but I would never say this dream was wrong, right? Yeah. So that was probably the thing I most struggled with. I mean, we had some, not debates, but I had quite a few questions about that. About, well, me as a cultural Christian, we've grown up with the philosophy of, you know, right and wrong. And I also find it personally a valuable or virtuous thing to strive for morals and idealism, like many of us do. And Tantra kind of disrupts all of this. And, we talked a lot about, you know, all these quote unquote bad things happen in the world, people getting killed, people getting raped, and you know, your stand, your perspective, your tantric perspective was kind of like that. It's okay, or it's not wrong, at least. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that was like the second core principle, and then the third one, which might be even more provocative to most people out there than the second one, is that I'm God. You're God. I'm God. We are all the absolute. And I would just love to have you elaborating on that, because you know, you're more competent, you have more knowledge about that. And I would love to, get this perspective out into the world, because yes, I did struggle, and every now and then I still do struggle or debate with myself about certain tantric perspectives, but I could also already see that it really helped me in dealing with certain experiences, certain memories, experiences that I made in my life that were tough, were very, very painful, whether it's the violence I experienced in my childhood, or being abandoned by my dad, or the abortions, you know. And especially with the latter one, that's probably the most difficult, the most painful experience of my life. And what makes it even more difficult, more painful to deal with is are my moralistic, my idealistic standards, without presenting me in a certain but yeah, this battle with my mind, with the regret my mind kept bringing up in the last few years, really was and is still really tough to deal with. And yet I found a perspective to that kind of helps me releasing, or maybe more accepting these things. So yeah, I would just love to hear you sharing more about these principles from your perspective, and also because I wasn't the only one struggling with these things. So yeah, the way you live them and the way you teach them, and what you experience with them.
All three, or
yeah, would love to.
Yeah, well, this is amazing. It was really nice to hear you distill these three, because these are great. That this is a dream. This is a dream. Often is considered not real, right? Oh, it's just a dream. If you wake up from something hard and you go talk to your parents about it as a little kid when you're first learning about life, and they say, "Oh, sweetheart, it's just a dream. It's just a dream," it means it's not real, right? You don't have to worry about it because it's not real. That's not what I mean by dream. Not that it's not real. We are living this life through our senses. Even if you look at back to David Hume, and then modern physiology, psychology, neurology, we're living this world, we're living this life not directly. We have synaptic interfaces that there's actually a gap between our seeing, our touching, our smelling, our tasting, that is communication, neurobiological, chemical communications. So we're not actually seeing, touching, tasting directly any of these things. All that process is going on in our head.
So it comes down to, we don't see the world as it is, but as we are.
Yes. So we are interpreting. Yeah. Right. So nothing is directly happening. And then the tantras will say that not only are we not that we are interpreting, but that that we are projecting this reality, or more accurately, that everything is happening together. There's actually no separation, because everything is emerging simultaneously. The observed and the observer are in a direct relationship, concurrent relationship at the same time. And time is also a created reality. So all of this is, in one sense, synthetic, right? It's determinate. It's dependent, I should say. It's dependent on the absolute consciousness, choosing to have these experiences. Just like our dreams are our superconscious mind, subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, choosing to have these experiences, and you are living them, right? So this is a choice of the absolute to have all these experiences. She's omnipresent, or omniscient. She knows everything. So she makes, he, it, however you want to say it. The absolute, just by definition, being absolute, knows everything. So she's choosing to have this reality, just like we are choosing to have a dream, choosing to have a dream. So in that way, this is a choice of an experience that the absolute is having as us. And when there's absolute, then we are part of that. So then the same thing means there's no possibility of right and wrong. There's no possibility of right and wrong. There's only one reality. And that one reality is choosing. So how could that one reality choose something wrong? And who is to determine that wrong and right? If she's the one choosing and doing, then it was right for her, or it's what she wanted. Right?
If I may interrupt you there, if I'm God, then I'm how do you call it? Omnipotent, omnipowerful as well.
Yeah.
So then that would mean to me that I'm in the position to judge what's right and wrong.
If you say it's wrong, but then why would you do something that's wrong? You can say it's wrong, but you're the one who did the wrong thing. So does that actually mean anything? Does that have validity as wrongness? You can choose, I'm going to have a wrong experience, but it was by your choice. Yeah. So it's right. It was what you wanted.
Yeah. So if it was truly wrong, in my perspective, I wouldn't have done it in the first place.
Right. Right. So this gets into semantics. So maybe there are better words, but there's nothing that is intrinsically, maybe good and bad. There's nothing intrinsically bad. There's nothing that I don't not want it to be. She doesn't have this. Anything that was in her swatantra, in her potential. And out of, as Christopher Wallace says in Tantra Illuminated, out of her self-love, she must express all of those potentials because they are her. So if she didn't express them, That would be a self-negation, a withholding of her own potentials. And she has no reason to withhold her own potentials because she loves herself. It's her bliss. Everything is her play. Because again, she gets to choose. There's nobody telling her what to do. No mom, no dad, no boss, no police, no nothing outside of her telling her what to do. She creates all those things as playground. So there's no more right and wrong. And it's a dream because it's her creating her reality as her, just as all the things in your dream, all of the people, all of the objects, they're all you creating yourself in these different forms. So she's creating herself in all of these different forms. And it's only her, just as every character in your dream, you know, is you. That's why it's a beautiful analogy. Because when you wake up, you don't think, oh, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but it's like, oh, I'm a motherfucker, you know, like I got to look into myself. And she knows. She doesn't need to look into why did I create that character in my dream, because she's omniscient. She knows everything, right? So she knows why she did it, and then she veiled herself. She set up the whole dominoes, and then she forgot, and then she started the dominoes just to see, wow, amazing, what would happen with this infinitely complex dominoes arena that she has set up. And then she even forgets, so that it's even more. It would be even fun if you had set it all up and started it. It would be fun if you had set it up and started it. But if you had set it all up and then forgot, just like a little kid bringing a little kid in and saying, okay, now watch, and you did this, and it had all of these, you know, and fireworks and everything it set off. How fantastic, right? That's what she's doing.
Like the meme I shared this morning. Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
No, it's an alien smoking a bong, and when it wakes up, it realizes it was in this trip all the time, you know, and it was like waking up out of this trip from the bong and realizing, whoa, that was a crazy trip. Like afterlife, you know, when we die, we wake up as the alien.
Oh, okay, yes, for sure, for sure. Yeah. I mean, this is why psychedelics are changed kind of the face of modern spirituality and all of this. Yeah, because we see that this is all so, just this little tiny, like if you take acid, this little tiny thing can change everything. Our perception is so malleable. I would even say so. I don't think it's so limited. In one sense, it's so prescribed and so easy to let that limitation go. Just this little thing. So we are limiting it, right? We chose to limit it. She, as we, chose to limit it because we have to have limitations to see a you versus everything else. That was a choice, so that she could play. So she, as me, shy, could play with Shu, with she as you. She had to limit this so that we could have this interaction and play and discover ourselves. Even though she knows herself, it's so much fun to rediscover. And she has the ability, we have the ability to neuralize ourselves, forget everything, and start again because it's so much fun.
So like a narcotic. Huh? Like a narcotic.
A narcotic, I mean, sure. Without that's why I say the Shavasana is the best trip that I've been on, because it actually makes me more healthy, more energized. It doesn't have this unsustainable side that a lot of drugs have, that you have to, you have to wait for a while to continue. The next time you do MDMA has to be 3 months later because the serotonin drop and all of these after effects. This doesn't have any downsides, right? But it is absolutely, it's the only drug that I've taken, and I've tried a lot of medicines and whatever just to see, because all my students were saying, hey, wow, this is amazing. This will get you here, or this will get you to the same place. And I thought, let's try out. If I could just give everybody a tablet of something and skip the 10 years that I had at that time been doing this stuff and the 20 years that I've been doing it now, for sure I would. Why not? Right? So I went around and I tried all those things. And I did high doses of whatever I could get in a safe environment. I knew the set and the setting and the people that it was coming from and all of that stuff. When somebody I trusted offered me those experiences and opportunities, I took them because I wanted to see what was out there for fun and to be able to offer my perspective to people who were coming to ask me. And I kept taking like more and more to try and see, like, when can I turn this whole thing off? Like, just to have a really, like, get out of my head, because my mind runs. It's so strong and it's so insistent. This is the only thing that I have really gotten out. And I'm not sleeping, right? For a while, even in Shavasana, it would be like a dream state and there would be a lot of subconscious stuff going. Now, out. There's no space, there's no time. And the only, even the texts talk about, the only experience I have of it is when I come out of it. But it's the remnants, those moments just coming out of it are so just bliss. And I know that that was coming from, like they use the example of, I know I was crying because I have tears on my face, but I don't remember it because I was asleep. Right? This is not sleep. This is in a different subliminal kind of another fourth state kind of. And it is absolutely life-changing because I know what's underlying all of this, and it's sublime. The timeless, spaceless reality is not empty. This is where the Sat Chit Ananda, right? The suchness, the space in one sense, the Chit and the Ananda. When you take away the space, when you take away the Chit, the mind aspect and all that's filling the space, everything, the Ananda is still there.
It's the morning mantra we keep practicing.
Yeah, it's in there, and that's bliss. And there is no void. It is full of just bliss, nothing else. But it is this unspeakable, undescribable bliss.
Yeah, I can only confirm this. I had the most intense, the most psychedelic shavasanas here ever. Like I remember already in the first week, I told Sal about it. I was like laying there in shavasana and actually just waiting to get out of it to get some lunch. And then all of a sudden I was like zoop, out. And I remember this curtain kind of like falling onto me slowly. And then I was just gone for, I don't know, like 20 minutes in this realm.
Yeah.
And then another time, it was a few days after our walk, I think in the second week, and we talked a bit about internal family systems and how I could better deal with these different parts of me, this like hyperactive, hyperprotective mind. And I didn't tell you about this, but this one shavasana, I kind of met this protective guy, this protective part, personified. And I started talking to him, and I've never had something like this before. I work with internal family systems and try to like consciously, intentionally, and created these personas myself more or less.
Yeah.
But during the Shavasana, it just happened. It just happened. And then also a few days ago when you instructed this Taoist smiling meditation, I shared this yesterday. I was like kind of a little bit mad at you almost for taking away my Shavasana. And I was like, bro, come on, I just wanted to relax. And you kept telling me to smile all over my body. And then when we got into the final Shavasana, I just sensed this golden rain dropping onto me, and I felt pure bliss. And it was keep going for the whole evening. And ever since, like for 3 days, I keep experiencing this state, like a subtly state of bliss, which is an incredible feeling. And I've only known this before from very, very deep meditations, but the premise for the state, like this intra and post meditation state was, like very long meditations, up to like an hour, 2 hours, or at a Vipassana, after 5 days, and from psychedelics. So, and then also this psychedelic afterglow lasted for 2-3 days and got weaker and weaker. And here I get to experience like the most accessible gate to get into the state. So I would have 10 more questions to dive even deeper, but I would love to touch on one of my most favorite debates, which is around free will. Because from this perspective, and we already had quite a few contemplations about it, but this perspective includes that we don't have a free will, right? And personally, I can admit that, like egoically, I still like to think that I do have a free will, like most people out there. And the most powerful question on how to challenge the non-free will thing is that I just think for myself that, if she's omnipotent and she wants to experience the whole show, the whole game, then why would she limit herself by, having everything planned out?
Yeah, she wants to have the experience of free will. That's why you have it. You have the experience of free will. I do too, for sure. She wants to have all of the things. She wants to have the experience of being separate. But it's like you have the experience of separation in your dreams, but all those things are you. But you create a synthetic environment where you are many characters in your sleep dreams. Same thing, just on a sequential level rather than a object level. She separates herself and has this sense of separation as beings, sense of choices that could go either way. And this is, fortunately, now we have this kind of metaverse concept in physics that everything will be done. So it's already chosen because every possibility is happening, right? And time is relative in physics, and in the tantras, time is artificial. So choice is by time and space, which are both in the tattvas, in the structure of how all of this happens, that she has to create space and causality, which then creates, or time, she creates time, and then she creates causality, cause, which needs space for there to be sequence and causes and locations for birth, karmic realities. It has to have space. So she creates the environment for choices to exist, right? For there to be somewhere to go, something to think in a moment. I have to, the choice is a choice I make now and a result I make in time. So she creates time. So choice is not inherent in the structure, in the fabric of reality, cosmic reality past this karmic 5 elements space. Here, 5 element space, yes, we have choice. That's why she created niyati, causality, and kala. I don't know if it's kala or kala. I think it's kala is the time. She created it in order to have the experience of free will. But she also knows everything, and she had to limit her knowledge in vidya from a knowing of a being to knowing certain things. If I know the pole, it means I have to separate it. It's now separate from just Shakti, just Shiva. It is me. Everything is just me-ness. Well, now my me-ness has characteristics, and I have to define those characteristics. All of this is the same sort of thing as choice. She created all of these synthetically in order to play with that. And absolutely she plays with choice, because we apparently have a choice to drink this cup or leave it there right now. And so there are things that are happening or not happening, and the options are there. But just like knowledge of separating, I'm separating that as a sensation. I sense that. I have the appearance of that. But really, even quantum physics will say that this is all just a mass, and when we look at things, it brings it into form. Same thing with choice. It's all there. There was no choice, or there is every choice. And when we focus on it, then we have the appearance, the experience of choice. But she knows everything. So she has to limit that knowing to say, I don't want to, why would I want to plan everything out? It's not, she didn't plan, she already knows. Planning is something that you have to endeavor to do. You have to spend time doing. She just knows everything. It's like somebody who can tell the future. I don't know how they do it, but I imagine some of them, it's just, they just see it. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to build it. They don't have to go ask, mythical creatures. It appears in front of them. She knows everything. So she had to limit that knowing in order to play with the not knowing. And she can do that because she can do anything. So she thought this will be fun. So she gave herself choice for fun. And so there is choice for sure. There's the appearance of choice for fun. Just like there's an appearance of you separate from me for fun, for this conversation. Does that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's backed up by science nowadays as well, which makes it, even more potent, powerful, valid for me. I mean, if we listen to people like Dr. Robert Sapolsky or Sam Harris, and speaking of science, why do you think, why do you feel, why do you experience the tantric philosophy as truth? Why do we live in this? Why do you believe that we live in this non-duality?
It makes sense to me. Because of my logic, I needed the logic of it, and it logically makes the most sense of anything else, and that logic accords with my experience. It makes sense, and it feels, the feeling and the thoughts and ideas match. And if that weren't the case, then it wouldn't be so strong for me. But I have the sense, I've had a unity experiences, or this sensation that everything is playful, and it can be. Everything is krida or lila. the play or the dance, the celebration. And I have that. I have had those experiences, and I
And we
have
all
that.
have, right? Like it's
Yes.
the collective agreement when we look at all religions and, you know, people who've been in near-death experiences. So there's a lot of evidence
Yeah.
for it over the last thousand of years and millions, if not billions of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We are, I mean, also, like you say, neurologically set up for connection and happiness. And everything that we're doing is giving us some measure, some by some definition, happiness or I can't think of the right word right now, but some benefit, right? Every choice that we make is some sort of, if you want to look at it kind of chemically, some sort of neurological benefit, reward, something, but some sort of stimulus that drives us to do that. And that may not look like happiness, but we're never doing anything that actually doesn't come out of some sort of clumsy self-love, right? Maybe clumsy, maybe skillful, but it's always out of something that's going to help us by what we think will help us in the situation that we find ourselves in, right? And so there is this bliss, and this is a system of bliss. This is a system of play. It's a systematic approach to something that I absolutely experience and believe and have outside approve or validation of, and it's clever. It's super clever, and just reading it is fun and inspirational, inspiring. Of like, wow, we as a human race, a divine expression, whatever you want to say, is really clever, and it's fun, and it's alive in me when I read these texts, even though they're super complex, everything. But there's just really beautiful, clever, insightful things that just make a lot of sense to me. And I've been culturing my intellect and my skepticism. Both my parents are lawyers, so I've been like questioning everything my whole life, and it answers all the questions. And that's why at some point I was telling you with Shanmuka, I have to stop questioning because it's just going to be a burden. Same with this. I didn't ever have to stop questioning with the text or anything because they lay it out in sequence and logic, and it's just beautiful. So I thought, you know what, this is fun. It's beautiful. It's been around a long time. A lot of people have looked at it, criticized it, critiqued it, and it has stood up to those critiques and mine. So I thought, nice. Why continue to check it and ask questions? Just dive now. And so I did. It met all the criteria that I had, and that was a very big deal for Shanmuka also. He did not give it to me easy. I had to build it. It had to make sense to me. He just gave it to me. He didn't try and force it on me. He didn't try and convince me of it. In one sense, he would even take it back. He didn't give me resource, so I had to ask for it. I had to build it, and then it was mine. And it's something that when you build it, when you struggle with it, when one struggles with it and really gets in the mud with it, it's beautiful, and it's there. You find the rocks under the mud and you can stand because it's substantial, but it doesn't give it to you easy. You don't give it to yourself easy. It's actually very simple. It's super simple stuff. But I think the title, if I write a book, will be "Simple is Not Easy." It's one of my favorite sayings. Simple does not necessarily mean easy. It's super simple. Everything is the absolute plane. Now live it. Right? Everything is the absolute plane. So there's no more disappointment, or your disappointment is also the absolute. So it's like you don't get angry at yourself for being disappointed, or you do, and then it's this whole mind trip. But it's really simple. Everything is the absolute plane, as and with herself only, in, as, and with herself only.
I just mentioned near-death experiences, and I remember you telling us or touching on a near-death experience you had in South Africa with a certain illness.
Kind of, yeah.
And I was wondering, what parallels did you experience in regards of your tantric and psychedelic experiences there?
In South Africa, or my experience with the sickness and my experiences with psychedelics in general, or only in South Africa?
No, in general.
I have had really good trips. I've never the only time that I really got scared on LSD was, it was so good that I got quite terrified, and it almost brought me into a bad trip, thinking, I'm never going to not be able to do this. I'm going to have to be on LSD all the time because it's so good.
I mean, that's what Ram Dass was striving for, right?
Yeah, having that experience without being on. So but I was pretty worried that time. It almost sent me into a really bad space because I was like, fuck, I'm going to be an addict. And what is my family going to think about? And I didn't, you don't become an addict of LSD, but I was just like, whatever you call it, I'm going to have to be on this all the time because this is so much more interesting. It wore off. I mean, it started, I realized, okay, I'm going to be all right. But I've had really good trips. And I only did psychedelics a couple times before coming here. And then I didn't do for a long time. The whole time that I was with Shanmuka, he was not a fan of anything.
Did you ever take something?
I don't think so. But certainly not when I was around. That was never was looked down upon. Then after that, I was in such a good space that I could manage whatever. I didn't really even need to manage. It was just fun and everything that I did. Being sick, my first near-death experience was in my mom's belly. So I don't remember that, but she was pregnant with me, 6 months pregnant with me when she got hit by a car and had a full near-death experience with me inside of her. That's the only real near-death experience I could even kind of claim to have. But the experience that you're referring to.
What do you think when you look back at this experience as a fetus in your mom's belly? Do you think this had any impact on you?
I think it must have, but I don't know. I don't have any memories. I haven't had any flashbacks. I've never had any relationship with it other than my mom telling me about it and telling me about how impactful it was for her. But no, I don't have any. I imagine, I mean, all the things were going through me that were going through her, whatever, chronically, chemically, neurotransmitter, blah, blah, blah.
How does she look back at it?
It changed her life. It gave her a very different perspective of life. Then her father also induced her into a near-death experience with the CO2 therapy. And then she worked with Ken Ring, who is works with near-death experience survivors or experiencers, and wrote a book about it. And she traveled with him and helped with some of his work. So it's a substantial part of her life of seeing something kind of more than what we get here just in the kind of flatland normal life. But I actually, having this question in this conversation, I would like to ask her more about it, to know more about how it affected her life. I look forward to that, actually.
Next time we do a podcast with the two of you.
Absolutely. She's great. She takes a little while to warm up, but if we could get her consent to secretly videotape her, then you would get an amazing. I did a recording with her, and she was a judge for many years, and so she also did a lot of Sturgefian work. She can like really lock it down. I was like, Mom, you don't have. She's like, okay, all right, but it takes organically. She can.
We take the ketamine plasters.
Yeah, she's great, actually. But I will ask her about that. But do you want to go on to this
to the
experience
in South Africa?
Yeah. So as I told you, I got super sick with some
indigenous virus.
Yeah, some exotic South African flu or something. And so just body pain and feverish and just knocked out. So tired, but couldn't really sleep. And it was like, wow, what an amazing experience this body gives, because it was just full on, everything was alive, and it was fascinating. It was just like, this is so cool. Actually, it really is like a psychedelic trip, because it was even like it was changing the way that I thought and saw and everything. It was really.
Do you have specific examples?
I don't really remember. I do have an example of the next stage, and I thought, this is so cool, like this tantric experience, and I'm like close to death with this thing, and I'm so okay with it. Like, it's so amazing to see this too as the absolute playing, and then it got worse, because I thought, this is going to be the peak of it, because it's really bad and I'm really sick and I'm really close to death and all. And then somehow, I don't even know how it could get worse, but it got worse, and I got more close to, I don't know how. I wasn't probably very, but then I was scared, and it was really cool, kind of in the moment, but more in retrospect, to see that I still had this fear of death. And then I was like, wow. My speech, the example specific, my speech, I didn't have access to certain words. I couldn't access a whole section of my lexicon, which was bizarre. to not be, I mean, I lose words sometimes, but it was like, it just wasn't there. And I had the echo of knowing that something was there, but not knowing what. It was very, very bizarre. It was like overheating or something.
Well, it sounds a bit like a ketamine trip.
I've only had ketamine a couple times, and it definitely was not, it wasn't like this. And it was interesting to me because I had, until that time, and even from then, never had a point where I was really afraid of death. I've been close, and I've been like, okay, cool, I'm good with it. I'm as much as but knowing from that experience, I know when it really comes to the actual point of it, there may be something more there.
Mm-hmm.
So I continue to prepare myself for that, in the sense of really live. My biggest thing about death is when I can celebrate and not be afraid of death, I have more capacity to live because I'm not trying to stop that from happening, which is stopping some experience in life. And the more that I get okay with that, and there are definitely, I find myself getting nervous about maintaining the school, or that's probably the biggest one. I have some commitments to people that are really important to me. But these ideas of who cares. And I was telling you all, like, I've got this amazing, my mom, again, she's like, come home. If anything happens, you always have a place here. And that is so beautiful for me because then I can actually be here. It's like not being afraid of death. I'm not afraid of this place dying. So I can actually be here with students and not worry about them liking me, not worrying about them, about trying to manipulate or manicure their experience, but just give what makes sense to me, how I've seen it. And if it disturbs people, it disturbs people. But I don't want to change it because I'm trying to save the school or get them to be happy so that they promote me or whatever. Right? This is very important for me, that I have this non-fear of school death or personal, ego death or whatever these things are. So the relationship with death and this experience, this kind of psychedelic going into other dimensions, and the fear and all this stuff is really valuable material for me to play with. And that's what a lot of these guys do. And that's why there's these meditations in the cemeteries or in the burning ghats, so that you can go and see death. It's also symbolic of dissolution, but always in these texts, the symbolism is also, as the macro, also the micro. They are realities as well. And I've sat in the ghats for hours in Varanasi and just watched the bodies bubble and squirt and everything as they got boiled inside. I mean, it's fascinating stuff to really see, like, this is what's going to happen. Right? None of us get out of here alive. This is what's going to happen. What did I do before this? Is it something that I'm happy? And not even I need to do something good or bad, but did I have fun? This is what's going to happen, no matter what. So was it worth it? Like, was it? It always is worth it. And it's only her having fun. But in this sensation of choice, in this perception of choice, am I perceiving, and those choices have already been made. And those are clues of what choices have already been made. If you're asking those questions, you've already made those choices about exploring another aspect of yourself and getting deeper in and fucking playing this game in all the ways are worthwhile. Sitting on the couch, eating chips, watching a movie for the rest of your life, getting up and going to pump gas at your job so you can pay the rent and pay the cable bill, the Netflix bill, is just as worthwhile as what I'm doing here and what you're doing here, in my mind. But we see there's this script that we have written for ourselves and these choices that we have already made for ourselves. So it's kind of like discovering what choices. It's like watching a movie. The movie's already been made, right? But you still watch it wondering, what did these writers, how clever did it get?
Did it change this, like, experience in South Africa? Did it change your life drastically? Or but you were already deep onto the tantric path.
Yeah, I was so deep that I thought I wasn't afraid of death. And it showed me I was scared. And other times I'd be scared and I'd be like, wow, I'm scared. What a cool experience. I was fucking scared and I wasn't thinking it's a cool experience anymore. So in that moment, I'm building so that if that moment, whatever moments come, I can remember, Aham Devi, I am the absolute playing this game. And I've had a lot of experiences since then that were far less dramatic and I've not remembered daily. But that one is like, all right, even when, because often when big things come up, then all my tools come in and I've like, everything's set. I'm good. It's little things that will sneak in, and I forget to use, the big guns on this little tiny thing. I don't need to do that. It's fine. And then it becomes the thing that crawls under my skin. The big things, usually I'm good, but this was really big, and it was. I remember it. It stays there as a reminder of stick with it. You're not done in the sense of, not a shame thing, but this is a continuous game, and keep playing with it.
How do you deal with all the knowledge, all the knowledge you've gained and the wisdom you are embodying to me? How do you, I keep asking you this question because it's very prevalent to me. So the first question is, how do you deal with, if you perceive it the same way I do, with intellectual superiority? And the second question associated with that, the next level, if you want, so is like, how do you avoid falling into the trap of the guru fallacy? And by that I mean, we've seen so many gurus out there who, ended up abusing their power, whether it's a Bikram, whether it's a Shanmuka, if I'm allowed to say that, or an Osho. And you're obviously in a very powerful position. You are working with people's subconsciousness. You are leading them into trance. So how do you deal with it?
I give a lot of reverence and respect to Shamukha for this. He was very good about keeping me humble, or he'd say, you know what, you're not God. You're not changing these people's lives.
You're not God.
Yeah, I mean, he would say that. But we had, I've gotten more into this Devi. He wasn't, I think he was probably, I don't know. Now I don't know. When I was in it, I had reasons where I thought I knew why he was doing certain things. Then when I saw what was happening, now I question everything. I don't know what his intentions were, but I know what happened. I know what the results were, and it doesn't matter what his intentions were. He just said, you know what, go in there. You're not going to save anybody. It's their job to do all this stuff, which also helped me so that I didn't take responsibility for the transference stuff, all this from Jung, and also the guruship of, I'm here to save your soul. First of all, Tantra, there's no saving. Nobody's broken. Everybody is the absolute, playing exactly what they want to play, even if it's the crippled cat, whatever. It's a dream. It's like somebody who's crippled in your dream. You don't wake up and say, oh my God, I hope they got to the doctor. Right? You made them cripple so that you could have that experience. She's making herself cripple so she could have that experience. And she, as you, can have the experience feeling sorry or feeling that's karma or whatever experience. So I don't see anybody as broken. The philosophy helps with this guru thing very well. Intellectual superiority, again, she's the absolute choosing to have some sort, and I don't think the intellect is not helpful at all. I've seen how unhelpful it is. So people who are not intellectual, I'm like jealous, kind of like, can I hang out with you more?
Ignorance is a bliss.
Yeah, right? Teach me, please teach me, and literally, seriously, like I have spent time with people to teach me how not to be as intellectual. I don't think that it's a big deal. I think that it is a hindrance. It helped me to get to the point where I could learn enough to let go of it, to satiate my mind, to prove to myself, I don't help you. I can prove to you that I don't help you. And that was helpful. So when I see somebody intellectualizing, I think, well, if I can help you get out of that, that's great. And somebody who's kind of fighting with me intellectually, I don't actually get into that. If there's a student who has an issue and they're trying to intellectually do it, if they're arguing with me, I'm not really, as you saw, like, I will ask them, like, are you trying to prove something to me? Are you trying to convince me? Or are you asking a question? Because I'm not interested in proving anything to you. You're probably not going to convince me, and I'm open to that if that's what you want to do, but let's have that conversation. And if you want to ask a question, please ask it directly, so I can give you what you want. But
yeah, that was
anyway,
one of my favorite situations in this training. This in week 2, when Gustavo bringing something up, I don't know about whether it was about free will or the rape discussion, and he was very, very passionate about it and keep going in circles about his perspective. And at some point, you just reacted with, "Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have to convince you. It's
yeah.
If you're convinced about your own perspective and it helps you, it makes your life, makes you feel more happy, then just
use it.
Yeah,
because it's all a dream. I mean, that's another thing, is my authority is as a human being. Your authority is as a human being. We both have human authority. What's real for you is real as what's real for me. And my reality is cannot be more real for you. No matter how much I want to make it your reality, I can impose it on you. But we've seen that happen in individuals and mass societies, and it doesn't work, right? You have an authority, and you have the only thing that I know of that absolutely cannot, with nuclear blasts or whatever, be open from the outside is the mind. So I'm not going to convince you with my intellect or my guruship or whatever. You've got to accept it, look at it, see if it makes sense for you. And yes, there's manipulation and all these things that happen and blah blah blah. But at some point, on a karmic level, we all decided to have this game. And a lot of people will say, "Wow, this is fucking dangerous. Now you're getting into dangerous stuff." So this is like even more than me saying I'm God. For me and the free will thing, the real controversial thing is I have no responsibility because I'm you. We made a script in this dream to play out this game. And if I manipulate you, if I take advantage of you, if I get it to where I can sexually whatever with you, the system says, the philosophy says, what makes sense to me also says, you made this choice. You made this choice. We made this choice in a dream to have this experience. And wow, that gives you a lot of license, or the spiritual bypassing or all this stuff is super dangerous. If you live in a fear reality that this is not the absolute playing, absolutely. And this is where I'm saying everything is her playing is super simple. This is the sort of thing that's really not easy for a lot of people, myself included, to really actualize, right? So this becomes very tricky for people. It lets me not become, I don't see myself as a guru that has anything other than I have information, I can support you. Shanmuka was very good about this with me. I have information, I can support you, but it's for you. Initiation was information for him. There was no bucket of water, there was no nothing, there was no tilak on your forehead, nothing like that. Initiation was information. And the same thing in the Trika, in Parachishika, in Abhinavagupta's work. There's nowhere to go, there's no liberation. It's only recognition, recognizing, re-understanding that you are the absolute already. And so how can you be manipulated? How can you be any inferior to me? How can I be superior? How can any of this stuff happen that she didn't want to happen? Yes, she has those experiences for sure, and they are traumatic, and I'm not taking that away. But it can be super salvic. It can be really helpful for people who've been through some of these traumatic experiences, if they can look at this without being re-traumatized, triggered, seeing as not, or interpreting as not being seen and not validated. And that's not my intention. Intention is you are the absolute. Yes, you chose to have that really super intense experience, but you now have the ability to respond. Responsibility is not a bad thing. It's the ability to respond to your environment, internal and external. And that's what Tantra, I see, is giving. Your ability to respond. Turned around responsibility, yeah, which is a heavy thing for a lot of people because they want to be victims. They've been cultured to be victims in this modern time so that somebody can tell them what to do. That's been cultured by the somebody who wants to tell them what to do. And Tantra is saying that somebody and you are fine and it's all good, but do you want to? You made a choice in your script already before you were born to participate. So you either will or you won't. And it's not a choice you can make, but it's a choice that you can perceive to make. So you play with it.
Yeah, what I've found helpful is to have faith that the absolute is still striving for goodness inherently, which, like, I see the cause in, we're still all alive. Mankind is still living, and there have been countless opportunities in the past where we could have all killed ourselves. Look at World War II. But yet we're still alive, and despite all the seemingly negativity in our today's world, wars, hunger, and stuff, factually, we live in the most prosperous times ever, right? And yeah, that kind of helps, at least me, in in believing that we as humankind still strive for some sort of goodness, some sort of idealism. I mean, like, Christianity has been running the world for the last 1,000 years, and this philosophy made us grow up with certain values, with certain virtues, I'd say, which tend to be quote unquote positive, like love your neighbor. So, and to take it on a micro level, on a personal level, it's similar to what I've experienced, what some people experience, like all the shit, all the traumas we've experienced in our past made most of the people eventually grow and become, let them become the person they are today. So there's it seems to me like that there's an inherent striving for iteration. You're skeptical.
Yeah, I'm not skeptical. It just doesn't make sense with the system that I know. There's no striving. If she were striving, she would already be there. She can do anything. If she wanted to get somewhere, she'd be there. If she wanted world peace, it would be done.
But then the fun of playing a game will be lost.
So it's the fun of playing the game. And it's not a game. You have a perspective of this is the most prosperous. By what matrix? Right? By your matrix. By a matrix that somebody gave to you, that you accepted. This is a dream. According to this perspective, this is a dream. We're not going towards goodness. We're not going towards anything. She's not going towards anything. It's a cycle. Mm-hmm. It will all dissolve and then re-metamorphosize and dissolve and re-metamorphosize over and over and over again. It's not going anywhere. It's just for the game. So there's no good. There's no, love thy neighbor, all of these things. There's a lot of examples of the opposites, right? These are systems that are talking about expressing bliss, ananda, satchitananda, right? That there is this joy. There is joy. There is celebration, but everything is that celebration. And I wouldn't, there's a lot of people who would say we're going downhill. And some people say we're flat, and some people say whatever. And to say that Christianity has been running the world for 1,000 years, there's a lot of people who would say absolutely not.
Sure.
Maybe because America in the last 100 years, because America is primarily, even though it's non-secular, it is kind of Christian.
Yep.
Maybe you could say the last 100 years, financially and militarily, a Christian-esque influence is there. But I think past that, you're stretching, right? So there's a lot of assumptions in what you say. And again, you will live from that reality. And that is your reality. And I have no desire. You came here to ask me these things, and I will give you my impression on it, and you will mix. There's no way you're going to just take my stuff.
Sure.
You cannot get rid of everything that you've already had. You're going to mix, and how much you mix in is going to be your choice into the pot, and how much it dilutes the other things and overrides, or how much it just augments them, up to you. And I don't have a opinion about that. I think that what you've already shared is fun for me, because it's like, cool, we can continue to have a conversation. There's one more person on the planet that I can talk to about this stuff, which is nice, because there's not a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that I don't think we are good and we're striving for, I think there is no good. There is her playing in a dream, and it's all blissful. That for me is way more powerful than some people are generally good. Everybody is the absolute, enjoying and playing with themselves as everybody else. And so every rape and every birthday party and every, family vacation and every mass shooting are all her playing with and as herself, to just experience all the possibilities that she has without any judgment that they're good or bad. They're having lots of experiences, and she is actualizing all of her potentials that had to be there. And how do we know they had to be there? Because they're happening. They can't happen without this absolute foundation, the nirvikalpa, the foundation from which everything comes. They wouldn't exist. They're dependent origination. They depend on the absoluteness of their own self to arise, we all, right? So she, and that absoluteness, that nirvikalpa, is blissful. So I don't need proof of these, Christianity every philosophy is towards bliss and love and brotherly love and all these things, because of this anand principle. And so I don't need proof of it in the newspapers or in trends or in historical documentation. There's no logical way that it couldn't be, because there's an absolute that has metamorphosized as all of this reality, and it does so on its own celebration of itself, and that is defined as bliss, ananda. It's only one. If there's only one, you don't do anything you don't want to do. And you can make the whole circus, the whole sandbox, the whole carnival. You can make whatever games, whatever rides, whatever you want to make. And you just make them. That's what she did. And some of them are hangman stations. Some of them are little kid birthday stations. Some of them are mass shooting stations, and you go in and you play the mass shooting game. And then you go in and you play the little kid birthday game. And then you go in and you play the make love game. These are stations that she set up for herself to have all the experiences, and they're all blissful. They're all good.
Maybe to attempt to break it down, I usually don't ask this question, but I find it quite interesting asking it.
Okay.
Asking you. So, inspired by Tim Ferriss and Stephen Bartlett, two of the biggest podcasters, they like to ask the question towards the end of the podcast: if you had a billboard spread out all over the world, places like New York City, Tokyo, Berlin, Copenhagen, what would you write on that billboard? What would be your message to mankind?
Wow. Something about what comes to my mind is, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. something about like, hey, like,
that's fucking profound.
If you're happy and you know it, text me. Make a website and like sign up here. I mean, they're so like, hey, do you want to play? Is there anybody who really wants to fucking play? And people say, wow, this philosophy is going to make killers and blah blah blah. Maybe, but when you really, for a while. But it's just like the Alan Watts thing, or as Christopher Wallace says in his book, if you can play all this stuff, if you can do whatever you want in a dream, Alan Watts says you can have these dreams over every night. You go into this dream state and you do whatever you want over and over, and everything. Eventually, you're going to dream this dream. You're going to forget that you could dream, forget that you're doing all this stuff, and live without the ability, because knowing how to do all this stuff, the siddhis, the supernatural powers, is actually not as fun as not knowing. And so you veil yourself, and you neuralize yourself, and you go out and you experience, right? So if you're killing, if you're all these things, eventually, I don't know, maybe, I haven't done it, but I think that it's eventually there's this like, hey, I think we can just play and cook food together and make love and go for walks and travel and do all these, and just, let's go on field trips. And so who wants to play, right? If you're happy and you know it, click here. If you really want to play and you can accommodate other human beings, and you can listen, and you can share, and you're vulnerable, and that kind of play, that kind of happy. If you really know yourself and you love yourself and you know you're the absolute playing here, let's get in touch. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to kind of build it, right? Like, hey, there's not a lot of this information. I haven't seen a lot of this information out there. And if there, maybe I would also put on the billboard, like, hey, if you are really, your shit, please call, because I'll come there. I'm not interested in doing all this stuff and putting it all together. I would love and just support. We all support each other, right? I have no interest in doing this shit on my own and being the big teacher and all this stuff. It's actually, there's so much projection, there's so much all this stuff that I don't get to often really, people don't see me, and I don't get to just hang out with the person that I see, but they see as something, a teacher, blah, 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 a guru or whatever. I'm not interested. I just want to hang out and play and have, I don't even know, conversations about how the no good and no bad. I have a friend, she was here last year, she and her partner, and we talk about all this stuff and like the ramifications of it, and how it, what about this? Oh my God, I never even thought about that. Like, what does no good and bad mean here? And how does it look in sexuality? How does it look in power dynamics of governing a society or whatever? Like,
law.
How do we all, like, how do we play with all of this stuff? Right? That's fascinating for me. And but first we have to get to the no good, no bad. In G and B, she said, she writes like, okay, in G and B, and then she goes off with this, assuming no good, no bad. Now we can play with this. When we really can get to there's no good, no bad, what does the world look like? And just that is like enlightenment, like just accepting it, not even being able, not living it or anything, just accepting that, yes, that makes sense. Now, how do we play with it? I saw this really just nice, it's kind of associated with this. I was just telling you guys about the spectrum of enlightenment. And there is no enlightenment except for acknowledging, remembering this whole no good, no bad, remembering that you're the absolute and there isn't. So there's the spectrum is you go from not enlightened to medium enlightened, which is you remember all this stuff before and after an event. And then fully enlightened is you remember all this stuff, no good, no bad, I'm the absolute, while it's happening in the middle of it, right? And that's where like, okay, where are the people who really want to play in this, and we can be in the middle of the shit and remember that I am. And that's why that experience in South Africa was so valid, was so life-changing for me and illuminating for me, is I realized I still have, in the really, like when it really gets down to it, I still have that, right? And that fear. And I don't know if it would happen again now. That's 6-7 years later. And having seen it also. Seeing it is, as G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle, right? The old cartoon. So just knowing it, then it starts to organically deal with itself. And that's what we do here a lot, is just point stuff out. I just point it out, and you will organically deal with yourself and put the pearl around the piece of sand, right? But that's what I would put probably, is just like, hey, let's play. Because I was thinking like, click here if you want to give me money, but I don't really care about money. I don't really care. And I don't need to teach anybody. I don't need to heal anybody. I don't, the one thing that this does is there's nothing to do that you should or shouldn't do. But then I'm hungry, so I will go eat. I'm tired, so I will go sleep. And so what is organically arising is the desire to play and to play with people. I'm a very social being, but I'm also very sensitive and sometimes fragile being. And so to play with the people that can play in this environment. And I'm really tough, actually, if I know that somebody knows this and they're poking me in like conversations like the questions that you're asking. I know where you're coming from, and it's fun for me. So yeah, probably the billboard would be like, yeah, if you're really happy and you know it, click here.
I'll take it. I think this is the perfect wisdom bomb to end with. If you
Clap your
have to clap your hands.
Clap your hands.
And I mean, we could probably go on for another
For
2
sure.
hours, but we'll leave it for a second part, hopefully.
Yep.
Maybe with your mom.
That would be great. I would love it.
If you guys from the audience have any questions, any unanswered questions, please drop them in the comments. I think Whitney would be happy to engage with
Yeah,
them.
this is, as I told you, like I'm now kind of ready to get out, because this brings a lot. It opens up a lot of shit. And yeah, I want to play. I want to play in the world. And so I invite, I'm not really interested in convincing, fighting, arguing, so I probably won't respond to much of that. But if this is fascinating for you, as it is for me, and you would like, if you would like the perspectives that I have accumulated over my lifetime, if that adds value to something and we could play and have a conversation, I'm super happy. That would be very fun to engage. And then I'll plug the school of like, come here and do it here, is the way that I have found to really dive into it and to play with it.
Yeah, I would love to see you getting out into the world and getting to debate, quote unquote, with people like Joel Peterson or Sam Harris. I think that would be very, very valuable for the people out there.
Yeah, I would love to have these conversations. As fun. Again,
Sure.
I don't want to convince anybody, but I just want to go and have a conversation with people who are curious. As this friend I was talking to you about, her big thing is curiosity, right? I'm curious, and I love to share this stuff, and I would love also perspectives that challenge it and give other perspectives, because I have this claim about myself that I'm curious, and I want, if there's more perspectives that make more sense, I want them. And so we'll see if that's true or not, if I fight for what I've built over these years. But I would love to, yeah. Other opportunities to go to speak, to go around the world, to share in person, the system, the philosophy, the yoga, retreats, workshops, anything.
Yeah, I'll share any information about the school, links,
Cool.
contact details in the description.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get you out there.
Yeah, let's go play. This is it's super fun, and the world is wild right now. So let's see if I'm ready for it.
Cool. That being said, dude, I genuinely appreciate it. It means a lot to me, really. And yeah, I'm curious about where this is gonna go.
Me too. Me too. But it's all been planned, right? It's all been scripted.
Well, yeah. So we can just relax.
Yeah, we get to sit back and watch our own movie unfold. Cool. And I look forward to it. And I look forward to continuing to stay in contact with this stuff, and just in general, in personal.
Epic. Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. For sure.